A question which is often asked by members of what I refer to as the TQ cult, the more deranged and militant members of the trans, queer and non-binary communities, although today we'll just be looking at trans. The question is, do I pass? So it's a man asking, do I pass as a woman? And of course, 99% of the time, it's a no. It's a really hard no, because if that were not the case, we'd have people saying, I don't know which country's flag this is, but fuck me, their women are ugly. Or at least that's what it's like in the West. Oddly though, in parts of Asia, say Thailand, where the trans women are incredibly convincing, there is none of the trans women are women, use my pronouns, etc. They just call themselves ladyboys and get on with it. So today we'll meet a number of people, beginning with a person who says he's trans, but I have no idea what he's transitioning to. To me, he's just a very creepy man wearing a dress. Now, I have to be careful because this chap is called Jeffrey Marsh and he's very fond of suing people. There's controversy around him because a while back he was asking young children to message him in private. He also tells children to cut all contact with their families and that he will be their family. And on a totally different topic, in the USA, there's a word they pronounce pedophile. In the UK, we say paedophile. Anyway, here's Jeffrey.
Super day fashion slay. Pow! Jiggity, jiggity, jiggity. Have you been nice to a trans person today? Have you complimented someone, been sociable to an LGBTQ? So much of our existence and day-to-day experience can be about feeling isolated and like we're not included. And you can change that. You can be kind. People write me all the time, how should I treat trans people? Like everybody else. Be inclusive, be kind, be sociable, be nice. Thanks.
Every time I see that man, I want to scrub myself down with wire wool and bleach. It's that predatory smile and the manic stare. Have I been nice to a trans person today? No. And that's not because I'm being cruel, it's just that trans people are still relatively rare. And when I see them out in the wild, as it were, more often than not, trans women are in an absolute seething rage, one step away from having a full-on meltdown, so I tend to avoid them. But when we meet someone who tells us that they're trans, we're meant to act surprised. Oh really, you're transgender? I had no idea. I know so many women who are 6'5" and wear size 12 steel toe caps. Treating trans people just like everyone else, I completely agree with. And because I'm in a band, I play gigs all over the country, and the vast majority of trans people I've met do just want to be treated like everyone else. But then there are the others, the cult members, who demand to be treated as if there's something special. It's even worse if they're fucking non-binary. And Jeffrey asking, have you done something kind for a member of the LGBTQ today? Like what? Because to me, I don't give two shits about a person's sexuality. But next time I'm talking to a gay guy, does Jeff want me to be more inquisitive? Alright mate, sucked much cock recently? Is it true that if you drink pineapple juice, jizz tastes better? Or is that just weird? Next up, we'll see a confused chap talking about gender identity, and I apologise, but he bangs on for about a minute and a half to get to a very, very obvious conclusion.
I love when I accidentally start queer discourse. Yesterday I posted a video where I talked about how frustrating it is when people misgender me as someone who presents femme the majority of the time. A lot of you pointed out how not everyone who presents femme uses she, her, or in my case, she, they pronouns, and some people who use he, him pronouns present femme regularly too. Which is a great point, and it brings us to this idea of gender identity versus gender presentation. These two camps are often but not always correlated, which is why it's dangerous to make assumptions. For example, I was assigned male at birth, and most people who are assigned male at birth go on to identify as boys and men, but I realized I could not be further from that. I identify as a trans feminine person, and therefore my gender presentation is femme. Which is why I was so frustrated in that video, because people will see that I have a couple of features typical of someone who is assigned male at birth, and then assume that they should use he, him pronouns for me. Even if it's a subconscious assumption, the action can still be quite painful. Now, in spite of a couple of characteristically male features, my gender presentation is almost always femme in the way I dress, in the way I speak, in the length of my hair, etc., which matches with my gender identity of a trans feminine person, hence the correlation I was talking about earlier. But as many of you pointed out, not everyone's gender identity and gender presentation correlates like that. Some people's only correlates a little bit, or some people's only correlates on certain days, or sometimes, or some people's only correlate never. All of this is to say that making assumptions about someone else's gender identity can be really harmful and hurtful to that person. So how the fuck are you supposed to know what to call people if you don't know their pronouns? Well, for a long time, a lot of folks, myself included, would say you should assume they pronouns if you're unsure. And I still understand a lot of the logic behind this. However, you might meet a woman, for example, who has a lot of characteristically male features like myself. And if you assume they pronouns for her, it might be really hurtful because she's a woman. She doesn't want to be seen as non-binary. So if you're really unsure, use that person's name, which is probably going to be the most affirming thing for them to hear anyway until you get a chance to ask them, or better yet, ask a friend of theirs what
No one's gender is assigned at birth, it's assigned at conception. So that chap talking about the few things that make him appear male, well, I'm guessing his knob and bollocks is quite a big part of that. And his jawline, and the fact that clearly that's a man. A man working double fucking overtime to keep his voice as high as possible, and saying that having long hair is more female. So stereotypes are absolutely fine as long as it's the cult that's using them. I used to have long hair. At no point did I question, am I now a woman? In fact, using that logic, every heavy metal band from the 1980s was made up entirely of trans women. The endless obsession with pronouns is exhausting. Particularly as most of the time, if you're referring to someone by pronouns, that person isn't present, so it makes no sodding difference. And when it comes to the revelation that you can use a person's name like every sane person on the planet already does. If these people came out of their echo chambers, they might hear how the rest of us talk. But I swear that bloke thinks that in day-to-day life, I would address someone, you appear to be male presenting, I shall call you he, him. If you are a man trying to pass yourself off as a woman, it's important to conceal part of your anatomy.
Welcome to Tuck Talk, where I attempt to talk about tucking in a social media friendly way. Let's get started. When it comes to keeping your tuck in place, you've got a lot of different choices, but I want you to be safe. This is not the way. We are not going to use any adhesive against our skin that is not meant to be against our skin. You are going to tape your tuck. Please use tape that is meant to go against your skin, and for God's sake, wrap the thing up in something soft so that you don't get adhesive right up against the most sensitive part.
Does anyone think that bloke could pass himself off as being even remotely female? That gaffer tape would be better used across his fucking mouth. And I find the whole tucking thing a bit creepy because straight away it transports my mind back to that scene in Silence of the Lambs, and we all know the one I'm talking about. Of course, in Silence of the Lambs, the villain was Buffalo Bill, a deranged psychopath who thought he was a woman. And speaking of deranged,
shortly after I came out as a trans woman, I became worried that women wouldn't accept me, not because I'm trans, but because I'm hot.
no, he's not hot. He's not even that feminine. He's a man in a dress. Even if he cuts his dick off, that won't make him a woman. Then he'll be a man in a dress who cut his dick off. And I don't understand why so many trans women pit themselves up against actual women like it's some sort of competition, which they expect to win. The only time that trans women win against actual women is when they're in female sports, cheating, whilst claiming they have no physical advantage. Or as we saw last year, strangely, when trans women enter beauty pageants, because then the woke judges, fearing the wrath of a mob, always have the trans person win. I will be amazed if Miss World 2024 hasn't got a cock. Thus far, we've only seen people from North America. Sadly though, here's another trans woman from right here in the UK.
It's now 29 weeks on HRT, and I'm really loving the fact I'm starting to see more curves. I just feel so good, like, I'm just loving the experience of that. But I do wish these would hurry up a bit more. I'm not seeing anything happening there yet, but I am definitely getting more hair on top. And just needs to go there. I know I say that a lot, but I want it to happen. And definitely feeling more me. Like, and my skin's definitely more smoothing now as well. Like, I love it. Yeah, getting on my period again. it was scheduled on time, so I meant to have it twice this month.
So matey there has had 2 periods in the space of a month. Mate, wherever you're bleeding from, get yourself to a doctor. And it's weird because 10 years ago, it was only the radical feminists banging on endlessly about their periods, painting pictures with their menstrual blood, etc. Now the people obsessing are men, are people who cannot have a period. We are living in that scene from the life of Brian. As for getting his hair back, well, I've got male pattern baldness. It never occurred to me to start calling myself Danielle and smash myself full of hormones. And obsessing about when his breasts are going to start growing. Is any of this normal? Of course, he's free to do it. Anyone's free to live their life however they want, provided they don't expect the rest of us to go along with it. What a time to be alive. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. And as ever, thanks for watching. As a woman, do whatever, fuck it. And at the time, of course they don't. Oh, fuck that up. And where they are convincing, they're just ladyboys. There isn't the need for the pronouns and a fuck it. Hey kids, I'll be your family. No. Oh good, the wind's back. Switch off.